Your voice makes a difference. How are you going to use it?
Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. Popping in once again, highlighting another review about the Going North podcast. And today's review is from Miss Altovise Pelzer. Dom gives us access to some great interviews with authors that we may not have had the opportunity to connect with before. I love the types of questions he asks because they lead to the answers that we want to know. Looking forward to more great episodes. Thank you so much, Altovise. And if you two want to be mentioned on the podcast in the future, go ahead and leave a wonderful review about the show via Apple Podcasts, Podchaser.com, Spotify, or the show website itself, GoingNorthPodcast.com. Now let's continue on to another fabulous interview with another super special, awesome human. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, we got a super special, awesome human that can fit all three of those G's and more, my friends. That's right, Dave, because we got one heck of a super special, awesome human for it today, because she's a wonderful international best-selling author, as well as a two-time TEDx speaker, healing voice mentor, therapeutic singing pioneer, and founder of the Find Your True Voice program that has trained over 10,000, you heard that right, folks, 10,000 conscious professionals through the Voices of Eating trainings and therapeutic singing certification programs. So let's give it up for Ms. E.G. herself, the excellent and glamorous Eliana Gilad. How you doing today, Eliana?
Thank you. Woohoo! What a beautiful introduction. Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, all. How you doing?
Oh yeah, that's right indeed. Usually one of the better parts of the show before rabbit holes appear, usually.
Uh-huh.
That's right indeed, but in this case, they're Energizer bunnies. They all have drums.
Right, right. Yes, I come with bells on. If you're watching this on Zoom by chance, you see what Dom is talking about. We have the dum 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 with the drums on the wall and behind me. And if you're just listening in, drums are us.
That's right indeed. And my goodness, I hear drums weren't always in your sphere of influence at one point.
Yeah.
So my goodness, so since your first time on the show, you should try to get the backstory of the folks that appear on the podcast. It's your first time here, and there may be somebody under some kind of rock that hasn't heard about you yet. So mind giving us a little bit of your backstory and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I was actually born under the Hollywood sign in a hospital named Cedars of Lebanon. And that must have been a prophecy of my future in the Middle East because I lived for more than 20 years in the Middle East in Israel. But when I was born under that sign, I had no friggin' clue that that would be in my future. But I did know since I was a little girl that I said, when I'm big, I'm going to have friends all around the world and I'm going to go visit them. And I've pretty much lived that way. I also grew up, maybe some of you listeners can identify that, I don't know, there was always something, I felt like a square peg that had to fit in a round hole, that my natural way of communicating did not exactly fit into the environment that I grew up in. And they're all going to have friends all around the world. I didn't grow up with, people who had any kind of knowledge of that. I grew up, with school teacher parents, and I, I didn't. It wasn't that at all. And, when I would express my fanciful or creative ideas, my mom would go, honey, 2 plus 2 equals 4. How are you going to do that? So my inspiration or my excitement as a kid was met with, I think they were just trying to, you know, keep me safe. That's how they knew. But, it served to, dampen my sharing of that, with those closest to me. And what it also did was it maybe like some of you, I think there are two sides of this. And it results in a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of existence that I go, well, I'll show you. I can too be real. I can too do it. And screw you. I'll show you. Not screw you, but like, I'll show you. And it served to really help me move forward and to do what felt right to me. But then, at a certain point, and it helped me to leave the US. I was in communications, marketing and communications in Los Angeles, and there was a huge recession, and my job was being made redundant. And they said, we'll keep paying you, but look for another job. And I was living this life of, looked okay on the outside, like I was surviving and getting along and paying the rent and, doing all that stuff. But inside, I felt like, you know what? I felt like caca, but I wouldn't admit that. It's like when I went to sleep at night, like, is this what my life is about? There's got to be more, there's got to be more. But I didn't know what the more was. And every time I dared to actually consider it, it would scare the bejesus out of me. And what really helped me to jump off into the unknown was when my job was being made redundant and they said, look for a job. I thought, so help me God, if I keep going this way, I'll look better in the next job. It'll look fine and I'll feel more like shit. And pardon my French. And what if I get to the end of my life, and I'll have all the things that we're supposed to have in life, but if I never discover or never express what it is inside of me that's compelling me, that I don't have words for, then why did I live? And that terrified me more than the terrifying fear of jumping off into the unknown. And I fortunately had the courage to jump off into the unknown, and I left the US for France. I lived in France for 4 years. And here's the thing that here up front that I really want to communicate, and why I'm doing this podcast tour, and why you should be listening to this. Because your voice is really important and you have something to share. And no matter what shit you've gone through, no matter what trauma you've had in your life, it's worth something. And if you keep reacting and holding yourself back because of the fear, well, your voice is never going to be heard. Now, you'll get the booby prize of being with the majority of the human race. And you'll get to be right, and you get to be, sitting in the corner on your high horse and get to be perfect, right? In your mind, in your dreams, and diss everybody else. So to bring yourself up. But that's really the booby prize. And, like what you said about the 10,000 with the find your true voice, I don't know what the number is at this point after 30 years of this work, but out of the 10,000 plus, I don't know one of them, myself included, who ever had anything perfect, who didn't fuck up, who didn't, it's like that's it's part of what allows for the fun. It's part of what allows for the creation, the creativity, the clarity that you might be looking for that eludes you. You know, we get stuck in the, oh, if only, well, how could I do this? You know, you're here in this great community with Dom, who, helps people write books. How do I know what to say? Well, there are people like Dom who can help you. But the first part is being willing to communicate. And to be willing to communicate first, it requires your being willing to value your voice. And in the media today, it's all bad news, whether it's a pandemic or a war or a political strife, or doesn't matter what country around the world. And I'm someone who does what she does because I used to be a CBS broadcaster. It was my voice that broadcast the Olympics from France to the US, and I had already thrown away my television set. The point being, what are you going to choose to identify with? Victimhood? That you get to have a lot of friends in that, in that ball game, you got lots of people. Or are you going to be one of the minority who dares to be real, who dares to be who you are? And I'm here to communicate to you that who you are is enough, and your voice is so powerful.
What you saw right, Date, is definitely true about the power that every single person listening right now has, is that your voice is different from the person next to you. Like, you have your own unique voice, and goodness, you've helped so many folks, help them to find their voice over the years. Like, what would you consider probably one of your one or two biggest takeaways from helping other folks find their voices?
That it really has absolutely, that the quality of a voice has nothing to do with how it sounds. I'm remembering this guy who came to do this work in France. He was like kind of deaf, kind of on the spectrum deaf. And he had this dream to make a rap album for his mother. It was like really, really important to him. And when he started singing, it was really painful to listen to. But the pain was that the voice, that he was shut down. He goes, "Do you think I can do it?" And honestly, I didn't, like, from a, if we're looking from a, musical perspective, I didn't know how to answer. But this work is not about a performance, and it's not about singing, and it's not about being the presenter. It's about really letting go of the blocks that are standing in the way of your being seen and heard as you truly are, and to have that, to develop the courage and the confidence, first of all, to connect to the source of your voice, because your voice is the instrument between your inner world and your outer expression. So with this guy, I didn't know how to answer. I said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Do you think you can?" He goes, "It's so important to me. I I got to do this for my mother. I just, they were an immigrant family, and whatever their story was, it was so important to him." And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, well, yeah, of course you can." And that, for me, he was one of the people who was a big test for me, because I believed in what I was doing, but this guy was like, like the lost case, the one that you really don't know. And, and he worked with these tools, and then he left the community. They left the city, and he didn't have money. It was a long program at that point, and there had personal, I would meet live personally at that point at the beginning of the way. He goes, but I'm coming back. And I'm like, okay. When he left, I'm going, yeah, yeah, really. I don't know how long passed, but one day he calls, he goes, Jean-Marc, you remember me? I go, of course I remember you. He goes, oh my God, it's so amazing. I've been using the tools that I learned, in the approach, and I've been healing my voice, and I'm really moving forward, and I can't wait, and now I saved up the money. I'm coming back because I'm doing this album. And I'm like, whoa. So, he comes back and I'm expecting to hear the same honking, because every time he would come back, he'd go, God, I'm moving forward. God, I feel so good. And then he would honk. He came back and I like fell off my seat. The guy sang the song we had worked on up until he left. It was like two different people were expressing themselves. It was astounding. And when I left France and moved to Israel, he was in the process of beginning to produce the rap album. After that, I'm like, never say never. It's like anyone can do anything. If that guy, it was really quite astounding.
Ah, beautiful. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's the power of your voice as an instrument. You get to strengthen relationships as a result as well. That's right indeed.
Well, the thing is also with him, later I found out the reason that it was so important for him was that it's something that he wanted, and his community, they weren't really supportive. Like he would have to take care of the family and he'd have to do the work, and they're like, why are you, it's like doesn't pay the bills, and life's fallen apart with, hell in a handbasket, because where they had come from was, they came from war and, and strife and poverty, and he had a clarity about him that each one of us does underneath, if we'll only dare stop long enough. And he had the guts, he had the guts to reach out for help. That is leadership. It's not having it all together. And, him coming back, that just was so impressive. And the thing that, like, when I left, he was gathering a group around him. The people were beginning to come to him because he had dared to show up. He he didn't quit during his adversity. Even though he quit, I didn't see him for a long while, but he didn't quit. And when he left, he had enough tools. So I felt really complete, like, okay, evidently we were supposed to work, for however long we did. And he has enough tools, and really taught me the power of these tools as well. That doesn't have to do with me, with the person. There, your voice is inside of you. You already have it. You're already what you're looking for. How difficult could it be to express who you already are? Just that the problem is that we're so acculturated and we're so conditioned and brainwashed to our own small voices, pretending like it's somebody else, and that's bullshit. In the end, if the whole entire world, what we all want, oh, well, if, everybody behaved the way I think they should behave so I can feel safe, right? When's that going to happen? You know? But even if they did, let's say if they did, all right, would you then speak your truth?
I highly doubt it.
You know? Like, isn't that the thing?
That's right indeed. That's right. indeed. That's right, indeed. The excellent Eliana's dropping them jewels on you. That's right, indeed. That's right. You have the power, y'all. You have the voice within you. You have the tools. That's right, indeed. Who needs Bob the Builder? We got Eliana the Builder now. That's right. That's right, indeed. Helping you with your voice, tapping into your inner power that you already have within yourself. And if I'm not mistaken, so this coaching, was this before or after you were able to conquer your fear of public speaking?
That was, I conquered my fear of public speaking on the inner city trains of France, which was when I conquered the fear, of you can't do what you're being, what your intuition or, what your inner voice is guiding you to. You got to pay the bills. Like there's a difference between paying the bill, that paying the bills equals being a slave. That was the belief. And being true to yourself and speaking real in front of people meant volunteering to hang yourself on the cross. So that was, the trains did it, and then meeting that fear every day for the year on those trains and never asking for money and really, walking through that fire, that healed it. And then people started coming, asking to work, and they just started coming. Somebody wrote an ad in French, now this is before the days of, internet, but working with people, and they would be from business people, entrepreneurs, to opera singers, to like this guy, to immigrants. I mean, all kinds of people. But they would come for their voice. But what I knew they were coming for was that I knew that they were looking for tools and a means to let go of the habit of holding on, or the habit of holding back. I knew that it was under the guise of their voice. So that's what developed, and seeing all these different kinds of people and watching each one, whether it was a therapist or a counselor or a singer, they, each person had their fears. So we all do. We're human beings, in their inner worry. And then, being in an environment where your vulnerability is known as your power, there's nothing wrong with that. Watching other people meet that within themselves and overcome their blocks, that inspired me, and that's what inspired me to keep going and to develop this more and more. And then when I moved to Israel and the wars broke out, there's just so much, on the ground success, but how do you speak about it? How do you help more people? How do you, when you live in something that's 5,000 years old that was never written down? My life is in service to the resurgence of an ancient healing voice approach that's connected to my lineage. But nobody taught me it. It's not it. Well, now it's written down. Now it's medically proven. But watching other people use this gave me the courage, just one step at a time. It wasn't the plan was all plan and follow the plan. Bullshit. No, following a plan always ended in disaster. Being willing to, one step at a time, imperfectly human, one step at a time, has, over a period of time, allowed, one step in front of the next. That's what led to the TED Talks. That's what, I never marketed this stuff. It came to me, and it will come to you. It's like when you stop pretending and hiding, then you're there. And again, there's no one else with your voice. And you have your voice literally and figuratively, because you're here to help others. And you know that. I'm just kind of reminding you of the blinding flash of the obvious. But we don't hear that in media. What gets sold in media is fear to go sell products. And I'm selling hope and faith in your goodness because you are good at your core and you are powerful at your core and you are the instrument and your voice is that bridge between that inner power that is you and your expression that nobody else has. And if it ain't obvious today, it's like no more waiting and not yesterday, not 3 hours ago, not tomorrow, now. We do need to hear your voice.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, right, indeed. We definitely need to hear your voice, indeed. And you mentioned lineage, and it's really interesting because I believe you actually come through the line of Miriam, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. You guys, you know who Miriam the prophetess is? Raise your hand. That's what I usually ask in a presentation that could be 100 people, it could be 50 people, it could be 1,000 people. And you know how many people raise their hand? Maximum 10%. That's if they're that's if they're religious Christians or religious Jews. Otherwise, nobody knows who Miriam is. But you ever heard of Moses? Huh? Moses, the parting of the waters. You know that? The Bible story. I mean,
Of course, Moshe.
we got the Disney story of the little prince, right? Well, Miriam is Moses's older sister, and it is she who prophesied his birth. If it weren't for Miriam, Moses wouldn't be here, and neither would Western civilization. But we don't know about Miriam because that type of leadership, that feminine voice, kind of went undercover. I believe to allow for all of the shifts that have happened in human history over the last, 3,000 years or so, to enable us to develop our sciences and our technology. Not that we didn't have it before, we were quite sophisticated, but we were operating and living according to feminine worldview. I don't mean woman man, I mean feminine, like Mother Nature, like cyclical, not linear. And in ancient times, the use of sound, vibration, voice, rhythm were used for engineering, spiritual, medical, astronomical, and geological purposes. And we don't have that in our world today. There's a resurgence now and it's coming back. And today sound healing is now coming into the forefront. 25 years ago when I began, nobody knew what sound healing was. It was like off the charts woo woo, you know? And and now it's really coming into public awareness, public consciousness. And so the prophetess Miriam, she was a leader, but leadership from the feminine perspective, leadership from the aspect of inspiring others to have faith in something larger. So you're in your day and you open your computer or you look at your phone and there's competing shit, right? And then you scroll to kind of drug yourself into, you get triggered by this shit or that shit, and the next one is worse than just pick your poison. And feminine leadership inspires you. There's that other part where you go, is this all there is? It's like, what are we like, snap? It's like everything just coming apart at the seams, and there's no end. We're all going to hell in a handbasket. Is there something else? And you don't know. Maybe you sense, but you don't know. And then you keep scrolling because you're drugged into the scroll. Miriam was connected to a whole other scroll. And I don't mean Bible. The scroll of compassion, the scroll of slow down, like stop. And it's a power that knows its value, so it doesn't need to assert itself because it's magnetic, it's attractive, not promotive. Does that make sense? Maybe this is too visceral or too, philosophical rather than concrete. Am I going off track, Dom? Is this too
Oh, don't worry, it is concrete because, hey, slowing down is actually a plus nowadays, especially with the infinite scroll of zombie apocalypse swag, with the wonderful slab of the distraction that we have today.
Well, yeah, I mean the culprit, yeah, it's like distraction, distraction 101, right? Distracted not only by like purveyors of Armageddon. What about distraction from your own inner doubt? What about your fear of speaking out, speaking publicly, because really the fear inside is eating you up and you don't dare meet it? But, sweethearts, what's the stake? What's at stake here? Is it the world at stake? Well, what about your world? Don't you count? You count. And when you allow yourself to meet that, yeah, the voice of doubt and the distraction it's there to keep you small. But it's like Rocky on the, running. It's like, but you gotta meet that. You don't have to meet it. Don't meet it and die, die in obscurity. Or meet it and go beyond it and imagine discovering that whatever that fear is actually the thing that fuels your next step forward.
That's right, indeed. That next step forward, indeed. That next step forward, indeed. Speaking of next step forward, you decide to take all your wonderful wisdom, or at least part of it, and the story of Mary and the prophetess from what you've gained, and actually put it in a book. So, my goodness, so I hope you to finally join the business of immortality by publishing a best-selling book.
Yeah, well, evidently the book is called Emerge, Triumphant, Thrive Through Uncertainty, and it got to international bestseller in 3 different categories within the first 48 hours of launch. And I had no idea, like zilcho idea, but it really shows. I mean, I'm like poster child, meet your fear. Like meet your fear and go beyond because it's timely, and you've got your story's timely too. And it enables me to be here today because I decided that I was going to come out. It was time for me to speak my voice in a new way in media, because when I was broadcaster, it was like I wouldn't talk like this. I spoke in 30-second sound bites. 15-second sound bites, that's how we do it in radio and television, and commercial airwaves. But I'm not a 15, 20-second sound bite. I'm voluptuous, going around and round and round, sometimes. And that's me. And you have your own way of communicating, and there's a space for that. I believe that's really important for us to know that we don't have to fit into a cookie cutter. Because when we believe that and we act according to that, then it generates more self-doubt and more worry and more insecurity and more violence. We act out in violence because we don't know how good we are. And we just act out in violence, whatever that is, against ourselves, first of all, to shut ourselves up, to shut down the angst. And the book is Emerge Triumphant, Thrive Through Uncertainty, which gives the allegory or brings to light the leadership of Miriam. And more importantly, I mean, having lived through 3 wars, social unrest, and displacement in the Middle East for more than 20 years, it's like, I know how to thrive through uncertainty and come out the other side, emerge triumphant. And I'm so grateful to be able, like to these times for me, to be able to be of such support. It's an answer to jumping off into the unknown 30 years ago. So I hope that that inspires and instills hope in some listeners, that if you have something and you're terrified, well, that's actually, it feels uncomfortable, but it's really good news. It means you're tapping into something. You're tapping into something. And the book has exercises and stories. So you see, you're not the only one, and tools that you can use. And it's kind of a workbook, not a cerebral workbook, but a kind of like a journal workbook that helps you tap into that place behind your critical mind, to silence that self-criticism and to access your higher voice, your higher knowing, because it's there. It's just, we're so used to reacting to the autopilot of the critical voices, that boy, when those are active, you don't want to go into your brain, do you? It's like a dangerous, it's a dangerous neighborhood. But there are
Uh,
tools. There are really simple tools, that soothe the angst, soothe the anxiety, calm the anxiety, and that can reconnect you when you're feeling disconnected. And when I launched the book, it was in that weird period with the pandemic, and so I made a little workshop to go with it, like ancient tools to get clear when life isn't exactly going your way, And it was so wonderful that I decided, well, let's just keep doing this, so it's my service to, if you want to, you're welcome to, it's a 2-hour workshop, you're welcome to take it. Doesn't cost you, well, it does cost you. Doesn't cost you money, costs you your anxiety. You're willing to give up your anxiety, but you can, that's uh, at emergetriumphantnow.com, and it's like the book and the workshop go together. It's so it's so important to hear hope today, to experience people living in faith over fear. And I don't mean a religious faith. You can do whatever religion, whatever politics, but it's beyond politics, it's beyond any religion. There's no dogma, just faith in the power that has the sun come up day and night, every day, every 24 hours. Doesn't require me. It's there all the time, and there's a lot of power if we'll only avail ourselves of it.
that's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Avail yourselves of that power. That's right, indeed. You got that power, y'all. That's right, indeed. It's in your core. You don't even need all 6-pack abs. That's right. We all got them. They just tend to hide.
Well, actually, all right. So no, let's talk about the 6-pack abs. Why do you want the 6-pack abs, right? To get her, right? Or to right? Or to be the one. But you are the one already, even with flabby abs. You are. Even if it goes to flab. And you know what? One day it is going to go to flabby abs because one day, depending upon if whether you're at the beginning of your adulthood in your 20s, sweetheart, it's going to happen. You don't know it, but it comes real fast. In another 20 years, in another 30 years. But here I am on the other side of those 20, 30 years. And I got to say, I love my flabby abs, you know. There's such value in life. There's such value in growing older because age is only a function of your body. But how, like we go to get the abs, right? So the body's really strong. But imagine when you put that much effort into your inner strength, how would you feel? Imagine how you feel that you'd feel that great no matter what was going on around you.
Ah, that's right. Might even feel like heaven on earth.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, my goodness, so since you've been on this wonderful tour spreading the good word of emerge triumphant so you can emerge on the other side of that adversity and turn it to an advantage, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on these podcasts?
Uh, that's a good question. How do people get beyond fear of criticism? Or there, like your fear of public speaking or your fear, because, like today, anybody, no matter what you do, if you're going to write a book or if you want to start a business or even if you're in a job, it's like it requires us being front facing because of technology. It's how we connect in these days. And in post pandemic times, it's, even more for good and bad. And we've never really been in this position before. So it levels the playing field. Everyone's got an opportunity, but at the same time, it brings up all of that insecurity. So, like, how do you get over that? That's a question I'd love to be asked. How do we, what can we do to get over that?
Ah, that's right indeed. And how you helped yourself to get over that in your own life?
Well, one, I'm befriending the self doubt. Number two, daring to ask for help. Number three, maybe most important, asking for help from those who would inspire me, for those living, working where you feel accepted. That's not exactly the word where it stretched me. And that's the really scary thing. But that is really the thing that, because in doing that, in daring to ask for help, it gets you beyond your self centered fear. Yes, you do meet up with discomfort, but then it gives the prize of having the support and learning to show up in a different way. And I continue throughout the years. I invest a lot of time, energy, and and money in wherever I am at a certain point to expand, to go to the next level. Because each time you get to a new plateau, right? And it seems like the world's going to fall apart at the seams. But when and challenging that, then you get to a new plateau and a new one and a new one and a new one and a new one. And that's what builds the confidence because you meet your own limit. It's kind of like the inner Olympic athlete in you. Because I thought about, isn't it amazing how long have there been Olympics? Like 3,000 years or something? And from the beginning of time of Olympic Games, no matter what the sport, doesn't matter. Every time, every 4 years, the athletes of the next 4 years beat the record of the ones from the Olympics before. Isn't that amazing? How could that be over 3,000 years? It's just because the people who train for Olympic athletes, their entire life is focused on growing, expanding beyond, going beyond, going beyond, going beyond, going beyond. It's like the inner game rather than the outer game. The inner game, you're overcoming the fear of public speaking is overcoming the fear of inner criticism and feeling the fear and taking the next step anyway.
Uh, that's right indeed. Whether they're tap shoes or stilettos, the next step indeed.
Yeah.
That's right indeed.
A lot of tapping and stumbles and falls.
Oh man. So, fun question for you. So, if your magical book emerging triumphant, if it was a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. If the book were a food, what would it be and why? Ooh, it would be like the clearest, purest water that you could ever drink. Because when you're in a desert and you're on your way to your next, and you gotta change or die, you don't want French fries. You're not looking for a hamburger. You're like thirsty. You're so thirsty. And this book is water for your soul. You need water, foundation to have life, to be nourished and nurtured and having your thirst quenched. That's what this book is.
So I'm talking about indeed the good old H2O indeed. That's right indeed. Speaking of two and the H2O, you're actually the second person to refer to their book as water. You'll love to see it.
Oh,
That's right
really?
indeed. Yeah. That's right indeed. Dr. Joe Schrand, his book Understanding the Power of Respect, he called his book Water as well.
Oh, interesting. Wow, you got to meet that guy. Connect us. That's
Ah,
interesting. Yeah,
will do. He has a show too. That's right indeed.
buddy.
Oh
Great.
yeah. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Oh my goodness. Hashtag radiance. That's what Eliana is indeed. With all the water and the sounds of heaven. You love to hear it. So we're coming
You know
down.
why else? Here's another reason why it's water. Because, well, Miriam, her name means from the depths of the waters, like nourishment. And the other reason is because you know how when you throw a pebble in a pond, it's like the most important action is not the action of throwing the pebble in the pond, it's the ripple effect that happens as a result that reverberates. That's the power. So this isn't a book, on pages. This is a means to connect to your power, to your realness, should you be willing to go there. You're really willing to know your greatness because you are great. This is a companion, a compassionate companion, to hold your hand that takes you to a place where you haven't been before. It's the place where that's beyond, it's the answer to the trying to figure it out and kind of like beating your head against the wall and trying it this way and trying it that way. Because the thing is that trying to figure it out with what we're facing today, the answer isn't from figuring it out. And trying to do that is using the worst tool that you can, because the answer lies beyond cognitive mind. And this well of water wisdom in the physical package of a book, and journal, um, provides you with a deep dive into your own well of wisdom, and that nobody else can give you except you. But you just gotta be willing to stop and dip into your own pool. So if you're ready, I welcome you, invite you to, dip into your well.
There you go, y'all. Skinny dip into it. That's right, indeed. Go naked, y'all. Get inside the pool. That's right, and you get all the wisdom.
There are other people who are waiting to swim with you.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. They're friendly, though. That's the good news.
They're friendly, right? They don't bite.
That's right, but they may have shark
Actually, they
fins.
want, no, they're actually not. They're people who, when you dive into your well of wisdom and when you retrieve it, it not only, it helps you imagine yourself, finally standing up and saying what you mean, finally writing that book and having the people so appreciative and buying it and saying, Jesus, where have you been? I've been waiting for this and waiting in line to work with you because you have something that they've been looking for that they didn't find until you had the guts to share what you have, because you had the guts to stop long enough to listen to yourself.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, you love to hear it. That's right, indeed. Getting you to go deep into the deepness of the well. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Didn't think you were going to go that deep with the analogy, did you?
We dive deep.
Pun intended, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, my goodness, coming down to the question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, honey, it gets better. You just wait. It just gets better one day at a time. That's the advice. And stop dissing yourself. Stop listening. Stop listening to the naysayers. Like, you're not listening to the naysayers, but you're reacting to the naysayers. Stop giving your power away. Stop wasting it. You do now. And express your voice. We need to hear it. Every voice makes a difference. That's what I would say to my 25-year-old self. And I'd say, you are pretty freaking cool. Coming back, it's like you really did listen. You did listen. And see, you didn't need to be perfect. See, you didn't do it the way, quote unquote, whoever they, however you're quote unquote supposed to. That's what I'd say.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. She's pretty cool. That's right. Cooler than two cucumbers, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Well, speaking of folks embracing their inner selves and befriending that inner critic and embracing their voices, folks need to embrace your voice to their ears and keep up with your journey. So, for those who need to do just that, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Well, you can go to emergetriumphantnow.com for the free workshop. The book you can find at voicesofeden.com. Actually, you can find the workshop there as well. The main website is voicesofeden.com. And we have a little link on the top. There's a really, really cool little 1-minute video on the book site, voicesofeden.com/book, that was recorded in one of the ancient sites of Galilee. It's like majorly cool on the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean coast. Very fun. So if that speaks to you, go to voicesofeden.com/book. You'll see the video there.
There you have it, folks. That's right indeed. Voices of Eden, baby. That's right indeed. You heard it from the voice of paradise herself. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. You will have heaven on earth in your mind through your ears. That's right indeed, through Eliana herself. That's right indeed. She's even got magical music out there indeed. And some sound healing. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. You'll wake up with a orange robe around you. That's right. Don't worry, you get to keep your hair though.
And you can pick another color if you want. We're multicolored. We're equal opportunity color, huh?
I can tell you're going to use that one again in the future.
What color is your voice? You want to answer me that? That's a good one. I'm going to use that. Voice has no color.
That's right, indeed. That's right. It could be orange one day and blue and soothing the next. You never know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for those who need to check out the rainbow of light via the stuff, check it out on Voices of Eden, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, any parting words before we close up shop, Eliana?
Your voice makes a difference. How are you going to use it? I hope that you'll use it for your good. Be kind to yourself. You deserve it. And please do something kind for yourself today, because you really deserve it. And your voice makes a difference.
Thanks a bunch for tuning in and setting aside some of your time to listen to this wonderful podcast, Going North. If you really enjoyed what you heard, do me a solid and share this with your network and someone that you care about that would get something out of it too. And be sure to subscribe to hear more, and heck, even check out the backlog if you would like, because there are hundreds of episodes to choose from, and they just keep getting better and not butter.